I'm Kaley Varner, and today is February 26th, and I've come over to my neighbor's house to interview him about the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Cold War, and Tiananmen Square. And this is my neighbor.
I'm Tony Martinez, and I'm pleased to help Kaley on this project. Yeah, I was alive when the Korean War started. In fact, I was in high school, and I can remember two friends of mine were downtown El Paso when the newspaper boy came running through. They still had newspapers, and they would have what they call extras. And he was yelling, "Extra, extra! Korea invaded by North Korea. South Korea was invaded by North Korea." And we said, "Gee, I wonder if the United States is going to get involved." And then very soon after that, we heard that President Truman, Harry Truman, had convinced the United Nations to go help South Korea defend itself from North Korea.
Alright. Okay, and then the Vietnam War?
Yes, of course I was alive then, but back to the Korean War, a lot of our friends, brothers who had fought in the Second World War were called up to serve in the Korean War. A good friend of mine, Alfred, his brother was a Marine in the Second World War, and then got out, went to college, and in 1952 he was called back in to go to Korea. So he had two terms of service. And the Korean War was, while I was in high school, and we were very conscious of what was going on because the Chinese and the Russians were backing North Korea, so it was the beginning of the Cold War, or now it's a hot war. But then from then on, the United States and Russia were building up their armed forces to keep each other from invading other countries. And yeah, then I was alive when Vietnam started. It started out very quietly under President John Kennedy, who sent over some, what they called U.S. advisors. And pretty soon, it became a full-scale war under Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson, who reinstituted the draft. People were getting drafted. There were a lot of young men who didn't like the fact that we were fighting a war, and avoided the draft by going to Canada, so that they weren't drafted and had to go into the army. There was a lot of opposition to the Vietnam War at that time. Demonstrations in San Francisco, especially in the West Coast, against the war. And when soldiers were returning, they were not greeted with parades and everything else. Just a veteran coming back from Vietnam would get off the boat or get off the airplane and go home.
Alright.
That's
How about the Cold War?
The Cold War was, of course, between Russia and the United States. Russia was trying to expand its empire, which started by taking over countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and other small countries. And their theory has always been that they have to have a ring of countries around them to protect themselves from the West, from Europe and from the United States. And so they started building up their army, and then the United States started building up its army, particularly the Air Force, to carry atomic bombs to go bomb Russia.
Alright, and the last one is Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square was students in China started objecting to the very harsh conditions in China, especially when they realized that they might graduate from the university and they had no work because you had to be connected with the Communist Party to get a job. And so they were aware of how free people were outside of China, and so it had a huge riot in downtown Peking, which the Russian government or the Chinese government sent in tanks to quell disturbance by young people. And there was a famous scene which shows a young student standing in front of a huge Chinese tank holding up his hand, and the Chinese tankman just staring at him, didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But that became a symbol for the uprising and for the opposition to the government. And shortly thereafter, the Chinese government started loosening up controls and became friendlier to the United States and other countries.
Right.
Is that all?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you want to
It would have been
explain how you
interesting
know
to talk about the Second World War, because at that time, there were very few young men between the age of 20 or say like 18 to 35, because they were all drafted to go into the army. Millions of American with men and women were involved, and civilians suffered too, because there was no rubber for automobile tires. In fact, no cars were being made for the civilian market from 1941 to about 1945. And gasoline was so scarce that it was rationed. You could, if you needed to get some gasoline, you had a sticker on your car. Say if you're a policeman, then you had an A sticker, which meant that you had priority to more gasoline than somebody who had an E sticker. Just like we would have E stickers because we didn't have to drive so much.
Wait, so which war were you like fighting in?
I didn't actually fight in combat, but I was a veteran of the Korean War at that
Oh.
time. And I spent my time in Panama as a counterintelligence agent. The Panama Canal is very crucial to the United States, and we were always worried about people getting into the canal, blowing it up, or whatever damage they could